Hello, my name's Quentin, and this is my cat, Lucy. And we're here today to read to you episode 3 of the book Pip and Kitten and the End of the World, written by David Congreve. Let's make a start, shall we? Are you going to settle down, Luce? Well, let's just get on with it. The call connected, and an operator's phone, somewhere in a building in South London, activated. The operator in question was Anne Curls, and she was chosen by a computer because her station had been available to take a call for over 3 hours and was next in the queue. Of course, Anne Curls was no longer physically present. Her desk was vacant, save for a smart blouse, pencil skirt, sensible shoes, and a couple of items that could be described as unmentionables, if they hadn't already been mentioned in reference to Aunt Cribbage on the previous page. So all Pip received for his efforts was the silence of an empty call centre. "Hello?" Pip called down the phone after a few moments. He tried a few more times without response and considered shouting down the receiver, but instead decided to leave a message in the hope it would be recorded and that someone would hear it and respond. Pip was correct with his first assumption, but came up short with assumptions 2 and 3. "Hello. My name's Pip. My telephone number is..." He thought for a moment. He'd never previously had cause to give his telephone number to anyone, but after thinking back, he remembered a couple of years ago seeing a telephone bill on the kitchen table. The telephone number for the account was printed in the first paragraph. 555-314-159. Pip was unaware that a photographic memory, outside of popular fiction, was highly unusual, but Kitten perked up her ears and made a mental note to revise her estimation of Pip's chances of survival in the weeks to come. "There's been an explosion of something. I don't know what it is, but I think there might be a fire. It's..." Pip did a little mental geography. His bedroom got the sun in the morning, and the guest bedroom was on the other side of the house, but at an angle pointing towards the city centre. "Northwest of here. A few miles away, I think. Pip giggled nervously. "I forgot to say where I live. It's 92 Kitson Street, so northwest, a few miles. Send firemen and doctors and maybe a policeman as well, in case anyone gets angry. OK, this is Pip. Thank you. Goodbye. God save the Queen." Pip wasn't quite sure why he added the last few words, other than it felt weirdly like the right thing to say. It definitely wasn't because he had an otherworldly sense that the Queen was well past saving. All that was left on a sofa in Balmoral Castle was a crown, a heap of clothes, and a couple of confused corgis. The bit about the crown might not be quite right. The Queen didn't usually consider it necessary to wear her royal attire while watching reruns of the A-Team. More importantly, at least for our narrative, no one would ever respond to Pip's call. But in the scheme of things, it didn't really matter. The explosion was caused by a passenger plane falling out of the sky, and Pip's earlier hopes that no one was hurt were realised in the sense that everybody on board had already died about 3 hours earlier. The plane had been circling the Leeds and Bradford airport on autopilot, waiting for permission to land from the control tower. Permission that never came, because the control tower was now empty, and permission that would have been pointless, because there was no longer a pilot on the plane to receive it. Instead, the plane simply ran out of fuel and nosedived into a farm building. The only reason there had been an explosion at all was because the building was storing diesel for the recently deceased farmer. For the next 22 hours, all around the globe, pilotless planes and helicopters of all sizes and shapes, and even a few dozen blimps and hot air balloons, would fall out of the sky and crash noisily into the ground and oceans. Most of them would be too far away for Pip to notice, but this was one of 3 that would explode close enough for him to be aware of it. The streets were empty. From the guest bedroom, Pip could see most of Kitson Street. From Aunt Cribbage's room, he could see most of Clarkson Avenue. The lack of activity in itself wasn't especially unusual. This time of year, with winter around the corner, rainfall was consistently British, and temperatures only a few degrees above zero. And yet Pip would have expected to see the occasional person bringing home groceries or walking their dog. Not that Pip was watching the world every minute of the day, but in between reading, naps and stale cheese sandwiches, he found himself wandering from bedroom to bedroom, peering through the windows to try and catch a glimpse of someone. Anyone. Initially, Pip had been looking out for Aunt Cribbage's return. To be this late home could only mean something bad had happened to her, and it was certain that she would take it out on him when she got back. His plan, once he saw her return, was to hide under the bed if it was evening, or hide in the refrigerator in the back garden if it was daytime. His absence would annoy her, but it might blunt the worst of her initial burst of misdirected anger. It had been 36 hours since he'd fled the breakfast table and hid in the old refrigerator, just moments before every man, woman, child, and pig lost their molecular cohesion. 36 hours of isolation and complete silence. Ordinarily, Pip would have enjoyed the opportunity to indulge in reading and television unmolested, but he was unsettled by the explosion he'd witnessed last night, and his anxiety wasn't helped by another deafening crash caused by a passenger plane, minus the passengers, falling into a housing estate in North Leeds in the early hours of the morning. It took out 15 houses, a leisure centre, a 24-hour pharmacy, and a failing sandwich/vape shop, but happily only started a small fire that died out within just a few minutes. There were other worrying signs of wrong things being more wrong than in Pip's admittedly limited experience. Most of the television channels were now showing just static, or a weird black screen with seemingly random numbers and coloured stripes. Some of the infomercial channels were still running, so Pip, if he'd been inclined, could have discovered magical bungee cords that created muscles, smart pots that could cook stew and bake muffins at the same time, and even a robot carpet cleaner that played Christmas tunes while it ate dirt. But Pip wasn't inclined, and even if he had been, there would have been no operators standing by to take the credit card number he didn't have, despite the insistence of the breathless announcer. It was strange, Pip thought, but maybe it was just something that happened occasionally. Maybe everyone was on holiday and they accidentally left the cameras turned off. As the evening dragged on, Pip returned to the telephone with the intention of calling the police and reporting his aunt as missing, hopefully kidnapped. But this time there wasn't even a dialing tone, only a weird, rustling static. Dialing 999 did nothing. Pip crawled under his aunt's bed, braving the dust, half-chewed toenails, and mouldy pizza crusts, to try unplugging the phone and plugging it back in again. This accomplished nothing, other than to give you the impression that Pip might someday have a stellar career in IT. An impression that, if you've been following the story, will quickly be replaced by the realization that no one is going to need an IT technician for a very long time. Pip continued to pace backwards and forwards between the guest bedroom and his aunt's bedroom, staring out the windows with the hope of seeing someone familiar. He wasn't too sure what he would do if he did, since it was 11 p.m, and he knew it wasn't safe for an 8-year-old boy to be roaming the streets. Normally he would have been correct. Small boys should never roam the streets alone at any hour of the day or night. But the fact was, at this point, the streets were safer than they'd ever been in the history of mankind. It felt like he should ask for help, but he didn't really know the neighbours. His parents had died years ago, and he had no friends other than his schoolmate, Lucy. He could find his way to the school premises, where there would usually be lots of adults, but school was still closed for half-term, and there would be no one there to ask for help until Monday. And Pip wasn't sure if that would be a good option anyway. His teachers never seemed to notice the bruises on his face, or his tummy rumbling all day because he'd been sent to school without breakfast or a packed lunch, as punishment for some arbitrary misdemeanour. He once tried to tell his teacher that Aunt Cribbage was mean, but she just giggled, as if she wasn't really paying attention, and turned her focus back to her phone, on which she was receiving mushy text messages from the assistant head teacher. Maybe tomorrow things would be different. Maybe, Pip thought, he would go to bed, and when he woke up, Aunt Cribbage would be home again as if nothing had happened. Yet even as the notion passed through his head, Pip realised that he hoped that wouldn't be true. As scary as it was to be on his own, with no adults to take care of him, this had more or less been his experience for as long as he could remember. Aunt Cribbage provided a roof, clothes stolen from the local recycling centre, and inadequate nutrition. He wasn't much worse off for her absence, and in many ways he felt happier. Perhaps, Pip thought, things are finally going to change. Perhaps things are finally going to get better. And that was the end of episode 3 of Pip and Kitten and the End of the World, written by David Congreve. If you enjoyed the video, please click the like button and subscribe so you don't miss episode 4 of Pip and Kitten and the End of the World. If you'd like to know more, please go to pipandkitten.com. And if you'd like to own your own book, please visit Amazon and search for Pip and Kitten and the End of the World. You'll be able to buy a copy just like this, or get a digital copy for your Kindle or other device. A very sleepy Lucy and I hope that you enjoyed that episode. We will be back very soon with episode 4 of Pip and Kitten and the End of the World. Until then, it's goodbye from Lucy and it's goodbye from me. Bye for now.